On that?
Well, I want to start by quoting William Shakespeare, who said that if you cheat on me once, shame on you. But if you cheat on me twice, shame on me. The Middlebelters have gotten their own share of the, you know how the Middlebelters were betrayed, after the Civil War. We were, at the forefront of the war. With the intention that we are all Northerners and we are fighting for the common good. But unfortunately, after the war, you will agree with me that the Igbos, has the highest casualty, followed by the Middlebelters. The most of we lost our, most powerful men during the war. You understand? And unfortunately, after the war, in the shortest possible time, we were dumped, used and dumped. And the Middlebelters have learned now. Frankly speaking, if you want to check what is happening, over the years, let's even go by, now, first of all, the word Middlebelt was coined by, people like Joseph Tucker in 1983. It was a Christian initiative. You understand? The reason because we felt betrayed. We felt used and dumped. And then we wanted to carve, ourselves.
Even after the war, before the war?
After the war, we were dumped. Then in 1983, because we have suffered, we were like, how can you just dump us in the shortest possible time when you made us believe that we are fighting a just fight? And after the fight, we were dumped. And we have learned the hard way that we will never allow this mistake happen again. If you want to check, political eventualities from 1999, you will see that the Middlebelters will rather sympathize with the Southerners. They will always want to, I think that this whatever, the Middlebelters will always want to attend. The reason is because we have learned and we will not allow ourselves to suffer, in the hands of, we've had this discussion with you one time about the Hausa Fulani hegemony. It is there. The essence is that we will be used as willing tools. Okay, Nigeria got independent in 1960. 11 days after independence. These are things that, unfortunately, history is no longer there. In 1960, October 11th, 11 days after independence, Ahmadu Bello made a statement, and I'm going to quote him. He said, "We shall use the minority in the north as willing tools, and we shall conquer the south and bury the Quran at the Atlantic Ocean." What does that mean? They have always seen us as tools to use for their selfish interests, and we are never part of whatever interest they think. Politics is about interest. The Middlebelters are wiser, smarter now, more sophisticated than you can ever imagine. You understand? So I don't think they will have their way this time around. Now, let's even mention religion as a major factor. You understand? The Bible says, can two work together except they agree? Religion is a major factor. Let's go talk about people, particularly I'm from Benue State, by tribe. We have a lot of things in common with the Igbos, so you mentioned them. If you go to particularly my place, the Uko, Oye that you mentioned, we all have them. We have Uko Market Day. You understand? So these things are there.
Northern domination politically. The North feared the domination of the South, educationally, commercially, etc. And I think it is the fear of the major fear of political domination was really what brought about the coup of 1966, which seemed to be one-sided, and it's mainly the northern leadership, both in the political as well as military, that were eliminated, and that engendered the crisis. Now, it was because Ojukwu or the East felt that after what happened in January and July, and a lot of the killings in September, in August, September, October, and subsequently, that the Igbos had to run to their own particular area, and I know that I had to even make sure that the soldiers separated, for a while. Otherwise, you never know what will happen, the animosity if they are within the same barrack. So I had to allow them to go back to their domain. Now, it was, you know, when Ojukwu, the East, felt that they have no, because of what has happened, they have no further stake in the country. They decided they wanted to break away from the country. Now, that was really what brought about the civil war. And of course, I said, as a soldier, I'm supposed to defend you know, my nation. And now, as a head of state, I cannot allow the nation to break up. You know, like Winston Churchill said that he was not made prime minister to preside over the dissolution of the empire when India was becoming wanted to become independent. So that was the point, and I decided that we should not, I should not allow Nigeria to break away. We will not allow any part to secede. Now, of course, Ojukwu wanted, if he succeeded, yes, with the oil, the major oil is in his own part of the country, and at that time, is in the eastern part of the country. Yes, in fact, he would be independent, he would be financially robust, and then who knows, he might probably go even beyond that to start reconquering the rest of the country so that he can be the president of the country. So the oil is not the...
I want to ask General Yakubu Gowon, how far, how market today? How do you feel being now at the receiving end, understand, of the massacre now in your home state? How do you feel? That was what you did to my people, understand? From 67 to 70, you killed over 5 million of my people for the sake of one Nigeria. How do you feel today? Today, you and T.Y. Danjuma of Taraba State are now calling for a separate Middlebelt zone. We are watching all of you. For a separate, you are clamoring now for a separate Middlebelt zone. Something we had seen over 60 years ago, and we are fighting for it so that everybody will be free and then be independent. A totally decentralized system where everybody will be free to live as human beings, not like animals. Today you are clamoring for it. Our market, how far? You can now see that karma is a bitch. You can now see that, understand? And for all of you supporting evil, all the evil you are supporting, you are only nurturing what is going to happen for you, to all of you in the future. That is the consequences of it. Learn from what is happening today. Learn from it now. It is very unfortunate. It is happening in Nigeria.
All right, welcome, sir. Sir, with the talks of breakup of Biafra, now I need you to clarify and give evidences and facts that can back up the claim that if Biafra breakups today, these are the evidences and the facts to support your claim that there will be a better change, you know, other than what we are experiencing now.
Okay, definitely. Let me just start from the recent interview that you have already watched. Where you're about to watch, maybe briefly, that you stay tuned on this interview, where the statement credited to the former head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, where he said that the aim of Nigeria-Biafran war, which was initiated, was not about Aburi. That means Gowon deliberately rejected Aburi agreement. That means Emeka Ojukwu was actually right. In that interview, Gowon claimed that he deliberately rejected the Aburi Accord agreement. That the reason is because that if they allow Igbos or the Biafrans to hold position and still control the resources of the Biafran nation as at that time, they become very deadly and very powerful. And therefore, these are the reason why Nigeria went to that war. I want to say it very clearly that can international community, Interpol, and powerful nations of this world order for the arrest of the Yakubu Gowon? Can Nigerian government, ICC, International Criminal Court, issue a warrant of arrest on Gowon? Now he has come out to confess that the real reason why they fought that war and why he rejected the Aburi Accord was just because of crude oil. That if they have allowed crude oil to be in possession of the Igbos, that they will be too powerful, more, and that was the reason he went to war. But all these years, we have seen Gowon deny every truth about Aburi Accord, push false narrative against Emeka Odumegwu Ojukwu. But lately now, because of what is happening in the Middlebelt town leaders have already denied him. They are worried how would Gowon come out. The Northerners are angry. Why would you come out and expose this secret now? Why would you say such thing? This is one of the things that we have kept secret over the years. So nobody knew that the war that was initiated was not about Aburi. Failure. Because according to the story, Ojukwu made it very clearly in several fora and interviews that everything that was agreed to an extent, General Ankara drove both Gowon and Ojukwu to the airport. That when they came, Gowon came to Lagos now, he now started meeting ambassadors in Lagos. And who are those ambassadors Gowon was meeting in Lagos? Will I tell you that Abafemi Awolowo was also involved? And he rejected and denied ever signing Aburi agreements. I want you to follow this in very, with keen attention, so that you understand, in relative to the question you answered, that if Biafra comes, can Biafra be able to stand as a nation of reference, as a modern nation, not only to Africa, to the black people all over the world and to the whole world? And that is the question. If Gowon can go to war because of oil, crude oil, do you know what that actually means? It means that, it was a calculated plan to commit genocide against Biafrans. With that kind of confession now, we want to see how AU, EU, international community, European Union, ICC should order for the arrest of Gowon. So, just crude oil led to the killing of over 6 million people. I'm sure the Northerners will be regretting. I'm sure the Middlebelt will be worried over this statement. I can see very clearly why they divided the old eastern regions and said this one is south-south and said this one is southeast. You can see it very clearly that it was not purely an ideology, that Gowon did not reject the Aburi Accord based on policy or ideology. The real aim is that to take over the crude oil so that Igbo people will not grow, will not develop, will not take over or have dominion. That was the only reason that Gowon started bombing the eastern region. Thank God. Then, back to your question. With that alone, I can tell you, before 1923, you can go and fact check, the old eastern region, when I'm talking about the old eastern region, I'm talking about the entire eastern region, including the south-south, was the fastest growing economy in the world as at 1923. With the highest population, GDP. And coming to this moment now, in fact, the money that was used to develop River State, Port Harcourt today, formerly Ugwuocha, was the resources of palm oil. that was used to develop Eastern region. In terms of education, in terms of everything, the East has always been ahead. The reason is not far-fetched. I can tell you. This is 60 years now. I'm telling you, I'm coming. This is right from the date of the independence till now. This is more than close to 70 years now. No Igbo man has been able to allow to become the president of Nigeria. If you look at the GDP currently now, Igbo is still in #1 in education, in commerce, in innovation, in technology, in virtually everything. Without government presence, the Igbo man has always thrived. Imagine a situation they officially try to utilize their resources. And that's why they said, in Biafra, Africa died. And in the same Biafra, Africa will rise. And that is it, and that's the message. You can attest to it that even though at that point, these leaders that they call themselves Nigerian leaders today are still making references to the Igbo people. Look at the Senate president. Look at the former president of Nigeria, the late former president of Nigeria. Look at Shetima. Look at all of them. There is even a narrative that the Biafran people have taken over the whole of Africa. It is not a narrative that is far from the truth. The reason is that, the sun rises from the east. You know what it means? The sun rises from the east. We are the first to experience nature. And that is where the strength comes from. So, what you are seeing today, spreading all over the world, where they tell you that, where they step in, they translate. People might believe that, for those of you who doesn't understand Igbo, it means that, this earth, world, belongs to God. And anywhere Igbo man find himself, he see it as where he can thrive and succeed and affect lives. Go to East. This is over 70 years that there's no federal government presence. But go there now. You see the result of a struggle. The economy. Imagine. So, I'm telling you that when Biafra finally comes, it is going to be a different narrative. And no individual or politician that have served under Nigeria will be allowed to occupy any political position in the eastern part of the country. And that is what the United Nations Constitution has stated very clearly. That Biafra is going to be a secular nation with Christian principles. We are going to model after America and Israel. Forget this infiltration now. You can see the revelation now. That Gowon said they are the one that divided this so that they can have all. So you can see the narrative. No wonder immediately after the war, he quickly ran to Port Harcourt to convince them that they should change or rename all the properties owned by the same people. The people that are telling you they are not Igbos today are Igbos. They went against their own brothers unknowingly. Look at Asari Dokumo. Look at Gombe Tombolo. I take it to all of them who are claiming identity crisis. They are all the Igbo people. They are all Biafrans. Biafra has become the identity. So it doesn't take anything. What we just require is, the descending of the Biafran government in exile. That is all. Again, let me give you an instance. In Russia, before we begin to experience the state of Israel that we used to have today, there was a man they called Genghis Khan. Go and find out who was Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan was a Russian, an Israeli-Russian physicist. He is the one that started the Zionist movement that gave birth to the state of Israel today. And when they were talking about it, they did not stand there. They formed a government in exile first, under the umbrella of the Zionist movement. Today, we have the IPOB movement, Indigenous People of Biafra movement. That's IPOB. And the government has taken off already in exile. And I can tell you that. So, and every structure of all the provinces of Biafra has already been established based on principles. Listen, based on principles of equity, fairness, and justice. And what is that fairness? Autonomy. There's no tribe in the world that runs an autonomous community. What is autonomous community? Where every community is independent of the central system. That's the fact. That's what they call autonomous community. They don't do it anywhere in Africa. It is the only Igbo people that practice it. And that is why they are saying that we are the people that brought democracy to the world. You do not know the reason why the whole world fought against Biafra. Because what the white man knows, the Biafrans, the Igbo people know it. We are indigenous people. You know what I mean by indigenous people? We have occupied relevant areas in the south. We are there before the Benin people came. We are there before Ile-Ife came. We are there before Igala came. So it tells you that before now, what is Igbo man's identity? The identity is connected to the biblical identity. The first thing that was done in the Bible that was recognized by heaven and earth is buying and what? Selling. And that is where the expertise came. Because it is in our DNA. We did not buy it. We did not, it is already in Igbo man's blood. Let me tell you, when Israelis left Egypt, their ancestral land, and was scattered all over the world, what do you think that was happening? They were gathering knowledge. They were into expertise. They were copying. But they did not forget their roots. They did not forget who they are. That's why you heard that song, by the riverside Babylon, where we sat down. There we wept when we remember Zion. That's the message. Igbo people are scattered all over the world, and they think it's not funny. And all over the world, you are seeing the trademark of Igbo identity everywhere. If you go to US military, you see them there. You go to Russia, you see them significantly contributing, not terrorism. Igbo don't do terrorism. We don't kill people. Igbo man have never conquered any territory since the existence of this earth. Go and check the record. They have not invaded any community. So we are peculiar people. And we are the chosen generation. You can't take that away. So by the time these forces gathered together under Chen Wisman, they came down to present-day Israel and insisted that we must occupy the land of our fathers. And that's how Israel came in 1948. Under just one man. Then they were able to bring in all those experiences. They have gathered all over the world, and they become one of the strongest nations in the world today. And that is why we are asking the Israeli government and Donald Trump. We don't want problem in Nigeria. We don't want to be like Lebanon. We don't want to be like Syria. We don't want to be like Iran. We don't want to be like Malaysia. We don't want to be like Egypt. Divide this country thought that the Igbo black man can be proud of what he has. There's no nation in Africa today that a black man is proud of.